All right, this piece is deep blue. It's not a camouflage. It's one of three long pieces that I did just to give I don't know, the book some substance or something. So I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from it, parts that are in the song, so you can sort of see the translation. So this is the first paragraph of Deep Blue. My weed guy was leaving town, but he'd arranged for me to meet some other dude who had weed and some oxy and some other stuff besides. I was driving through unfamiliar streets, a part of town I hadn't been to much. No particular reason, just that even in a town this small, you develop your patterns, your haunts, your habits. I was headed to this new guy's house, checking the address I was given against the streets and numbers I was going past when I saw it. A Harley Davidson Superglide with a fuel tank bluer than the night. It had a piece of cardboard resting on the seat with a phone number and a price, and it only took once around the block for me to memorize them both. That night I called the number. Hold it for a month, I said to the man who answered, and I'll give you $250 more than you're asking. Talk to you in 4 weeks, he said. All right, so then he gets a job at a grocery store to pay for the bike, and there he meets a girl, and those sort of play into him picking up the bike, which is here. When the time came, I called the guy with the bike to make sure he was good to his word. He was. I drove out to his place and handed him the cash in an envelope with the Alpha Beta logo in the top left corner. He thumbed the bills. It's all yours, he said before adding, how are you getting it home? I hadn't thought of that, but now I saw what he meant. If I drove the bike home, my car would be stranded out at his place. But if I drove my car, of course, I wouldn't have the bike. I knew there was an answer. At school or somewhere there had been a riddle like this. It was about a raft and a fox and a chicken or something, a bunch of animals that would eat each other. The question was, how were they to ride on the raft together to get to the other side of the river without gobbling each other up? Give me the keys, I said. I'll come get it tomorrow. The next day I arrived 3 hours late for my shift and told Alpha Beta I quit. Then I stood outside the store smoking until Kat arrived. I'd figured out the raft thing. Where's your shirt, she said, meaning the green polo all the Alpha Beta employees wore. Quit, I said. Oh, she said, and I knew it wasn't a word, not even a syllable really, just a sound, the sound of disappointment. But there's something I need your help on. I gave her my address, asked if she knew where that was. She nodded her head, and then we both drove to my place, her in her car, me in mine. I parked at the curb and got into her car, the two of us tossing books into the back seat to make room for me. Then I directed her to the house where Deep Blue was. Wow, she said when we pulled up. That's yours? It is now, I said, getting out of the car. I'll meet you back at my place. Deep Blue was as good as I'd hoped for, if not better. I opened up the engine and flew down the streets, weaving in and out of traffic. When I got back to my apartment building, Kat was nowhere to be seen. That's how good Deep Blue was. So I sat on it idling, listening to the motor. After a while, I thought maybe it wasn't my speed, but maybe I'd been stood up. But just about then, Kat turned the corner onto my street. She got out and closed the door. Then she came and leaned against the car and looked at me. Ever ride one? I asked, killing the motor and dismounting the bike. She shook her head. Go on, I said, patting the now empty seat. I don't know how, she said. You don't have to ride it, just take a seat. I fired up the engine again, and Kat used the seat to swing herself up on it and then put her hands on the handlebars. I righted the bike and gave the kickstand a nudge with my shoe. Kat sat there rocking back and forth, using her tiptoes to keep the heavy thing afloat. She looked real cute. I imagined what the engine must have felt like to her, like nothing else she could possibly imagine. Nice, she said. I killed the engine, put the kickstand down, but stayed on the bike. I said, I'm not at the store anymore. She nodded. I felt awkward as hell, but went ahead anyways. I guess we're gonna see each other anymore. It's gonna have to be somewhere else. There are lots of other places people can see each other besides the grocery store, she said. Yeah, I said, I guess there are. We were both quiet for a moment. Then she said, so that's your apartment there? And jutted her chin out towards the building. I looked at her real steady. How old are you? Be 18 in 5 months? I'm 32. Kat shrugged. It happens, she said. 17. I wasn't real clear if that was even legal. Of course, the way I was back then, legal anything didn't interest me that much.